Hey everybody, I hope you can hear me okay. I didn't bring my mic. Now if you're wondering where I am, I'm actually in a different environment than I'm used to. This is under the sails at the convention center in Vancouver, and this weekend I'm at Art Vancouver and I'm just setting up my booth here. So just put up my first image, and what I'll do is later on I'll go over all the different images that I've put into the show, and you guys can scrutinize whether it's the best choice or not for this show. It's for the whole weekend, and there's artists from painters, sculptors, you name it, they're all here. A few photographers. It's a weekend that I've been doing for the past 3 years, and it's a lot of fun. Here's my booth here, a blank canvas. Just have to figure out where I'm going to put everything and arrange it so it looks half decent. All right. Okay, here's my new piece. I thought I'd give it a try at the show here. So you've seen me take the image, you've seen me process the image, and now I'm going to hang it in Art Vancouver, and it turned out really nice. I'm pretty happy with it. I was a little bit worried that it might be a bit too dark in the base here, but it printed up really nice, and once I get some light on it, it should look just fantastic. Now the problem I'm having here is I have quite a lot of images of forests, and they're all quite busy, so I'm trying to arrange this so that there might be some shots with quite a bit of detail, and then some others with less detail, and then another one with more detail, because if you put all of those busy shots all together, it looks a bit too confusing. Sometimes, well, a lot of the times, less is more. But because these booths are quite expensive, I figure I might as well hang as much art as I can. But you run a little bit of a risk there, because if you have too much, then it just looks too busy. So far, I'm pretty happy with what I have. I have the large print here, and then 4 smaller ones that contrast really nicely. And then I have a forest scene and one that's not quite as detailed. And then I'm planning to put a couple of larger images here. So all in all, I think it'll work out pretty well. Crooked.
Look at this, found a waterfall, although it's not very natural. Look what's behind it, Tim Hortons. I really can't stand Tim Hortons, but they actually do make a pretty good cup of steep tea, so I'm going to go there and get a cup.
Hey everybody, well, I'm here a couple of hours before the start of the show. And it's amazing what a haircut and a little bit of a shave will do. Better deodorant, clean underwear. But before the show starts, I just wanted to kind of perhaps go over some of the prints that I have in and talk a little bit about them and the process that I'm using. I do my own printing on paper at home, but for these shows I like to outsource the printing to something a little bit more durable. I mean, I really do enjoy printing on fine paper. I'm not so keen on matting and framing, and the problem with these shows is when you start framing and having glass, then you start getting quite a bit of damage. And even with the aluminum prints that I have here, they have got, some of them have been damaged in the past. So why don't I go over some of these prints really quickly with you. Okay, the printing process that I'm using right now is called dye sublimation, and the dye sublimation is actually on aluminum. So the way that this product works is that the image is first printed on a very thin polyester based film, and then it's heat pressed onto a coated aluminum. And the reason why I quite like this is because it's quite durable and it looks quite modern, and you don't necessarily have to frame the prints. You can frame them if you want, but I choose to just leave them without any frame, and they just kind of float away from the wall. So I'll just show you kind of the side of the print here. So as you can see, the actual print is very thin, and then it floats away from the wall with a frame on the back. Now currently there are a number of different finishes you can get with these prints. When I first started getting them done, I was using the really glossy finish, but as time has kind of gone on, I've decided to go with more of a matte finish. So this image here and like this one here are on a glossy finish. The glossy looks really great and it really saturates the colors and it gives it a lot of depth, but over the last year or two I've started to really subdue my colors more than I used to, and I'm really digging the matte finish of this product. The other problem with the glossy finish is that if you have any kind of reflections behind you, like windows or anything like that, then you'll get the reflection in the shot. So you really need a lot of light on these to really make them three-dimensional and really come out from the wall. But when you have all those ingredients, I mean, they just look fantastic. Okay, this image here, some of you may recognize the waterfall. I did a video some time ago on Yoho National Park. This is Seven Vales Waterfall in near Lake O'Hara, at the back of Lake O'Hara, and I just love this waterfall. And of course at this size print, I mean, it just looks fantastic. This is the largest print that I've ever got done, and I mean, large prints look fantastic, but the problem is most people don't have the wall space to hang them. So unless it's for a corporation in an office building or something like that, most people tend to go for the smaller prints. And of course, a lot of people nowadays are living in apartments, so the prints are getting smaller and smaller. So that's Seven Vales Waterfall, gorgeous location. I've been there a couple of times. And we'll just move on to over here. The image at the top is actually not really one of my favorites, but it's an image that Karen really likes, and I've got a bit of a funny story about that. So she was really pushing me to get that image printed, and I thought, I'm not really that keen on it. I mean, it's a nice image, but it's nothing special. Anyway, I did a show, and of course I only sold one print of that show, and you'll never guess which one I sold. That one up there. So now I put it in all my shows because, you know, inevitably it's always the one that sells. This photograph here, now I still have to do my second video about light, but this kind of runs along the line of what I was talking about, contrasts in light. I really like this photograph. This was taken in the Enchantments, which is in northern Washington in the Cascades. And I just love the contrast of the backlit larch trees, the yellow trees with that blue background, just gorgeous. And the same with this one. This one was on the same trip. And this is Enchanted Lake, and the warm light was early in the morning, light hitting that white granite that's up there. And it's funny, when I originally took this image, I really didn't like the shadow in there, and I had a hard time getting rid of it. So then in the end I just figured, you know what, I'll just include it in the composition. Now this image down here is more of a composite, and it's the only composite that I actually have in this show. It's both images were taken at the same time, but I have one of Mount Assiniboine, and I took one so that I have detail in the foreground, and then another one for the stars in the background, and then I just kind of combined them in Photoshop. And again, it's another quite a popular image that people like. This photograph here has always been one of my favorites. It's not the most popular image in my collection, but it's a personal favorite of mine. I just love the light in here, and it kind of represents everything that I go after in photography. I actually took this with a 4x5 many years ago with I think it was a 500mm lens, and I just love the backlighting in this and all the little details. I mean, it's just fantastic. And of course, printed on aluminum like this, it really does come out and look three-dimensional. The image up here is from Lac de Bois in Kamloops, and again, I did a video about that area last year. It's a beautiful area. I'll probably go again this year. I just really enjoy the light in this one. Just a little bit of light hitting the hills in the background. Now, of course, these are new this year. I'm going to try and promote some smaller pieces, like I said, because most people don't have the room for larger pieces. So I decided to just pick the same subject. This is the little Fairy Lake tree. Again, I did a video on this last year, and every time I go to Port Renfrew, I always take photographs of the Fairy Lake tree. And this is just different times of the year. It's quite a nice little collection, actually. This one here I actually did a video on, and I'll leave a link up in the corner here. This is probably my favorite out of the series, and I've called this Temperate Breeze. Now, the wave pictures, I decided to put these in because they're quite simple, graphic. They don't have an awful lot of color in them because not everybody likes tons of color. Both of the wave pictures I just called the Stormwatch series, and I took those while I was in Iceland a few years ago. It was extremely windy, and I took hundreds of images of waves, and these are just two from that series that I quite like. Here's another newish image, and I'm not sure that this one's so popular. It's popular as a photograph, say if you post it on Instagram or Facebook or any of those, but as a print, I'm not sure if it really works, but we'll give it a go. This is Mount Assiniboine, and again, I've done a video about Mount Assiniboine. This was several years ago with a good friend of mine, Alistair Ben, who lives up in the Isle of Skye, and we just had fantastic conditions throughout that whole trip, and I've been to Assiniboine a number of times, but that particular trip I got several images that I really like. And of course, this one, I really put this one in because I really wanted to kind of follow through the whole process from me taking the image to me processing the image, and then finally I have it as a print. And so you guys can see the whole progression. That was the main reason why I put it in the show. I also really like the image as well. So it's a pano made out of 5 vertical images, and as a print it looks really good. I've decided to print it on aluminum, but with a matte finish, just so it doesn't have so much glare, and also the colors are quite a bit more desaturated than a lot of my older work. But I think it works really well. It'll be interesting to see what people think of that print. This image here is an older one of mine from my 4x5 days, and this is called Weathered by Time. And again, this was taken in Yoho National Park, and it's a very popular image of mine. I really like this image. Now, this particular print here is on glossy. This was the first one that I ever had made, but since then I've decided to print it on more of a matte base. It just goes better with the textures and everything. But since it's a small print, I decided to add it to this collection because it's a popular image and people really seem to enjoy it. Now then, these two images here, you've seen this one a couple of times now. This is one of my all-time favorite images, taken in golden ears. And again, I did another video earlier this year from this area. I go to golden ears an awful lot, and actually the conditions were very similar in my video to when I took this image. As I've said before, I just love the blue light in the background from the fog. It's quite flat, but then in the foreground we have this beautiful soft light side lighting these trees, so it really adds a nice contrast. And as a print, it looks fantastic. It's really three-dimensional. The image up here I quite like too, and this is actually a snapshot taken with this camera that I'm videoing with right now, the Sony RX. And I actually took this while I was coming across on the ferry one time, or going across to the island. The clouds weren't quite as dark as this. I've enhanced them, but I really like the overall effect. This image here is also another one of my all-time favorites. This was taken in West Vancouver, near an area called Lighthouse Park, and I just love the light in this. It has this really soft light. I mean, most of these prints aren't in your face, and I find that from my experience, the prints that do well are the ones that have lasting effect when you look at them for long periods of time, or if they're hanging on a wall. I really like images with quite a bit of detail and lots of things that you can discover along the way. The images with a lot of impact, they're great. They do have impact when you initially look at them, but they don't seem to have quite the lasting effect that other images have, that have maybe perhaps softer light or are a little bit more mysterious. That's my experience anyway.